what we drill all the time, which is being prepared for these types of incidents. Our emergency room, it was staffed with our trauma surgeons. We brought additional trauma surgeons in to take care of any of the patients who might arrive. So far, we've had 3 trauma patients arrive who are in serious condition and are being treated by our trauma surgeons. We've also brought all of our subspecialists, like our neurosurgical team, our oral maxillofacial surgical team, on board so that we're able to treat each of these patients. In addition to the 3 serious patients, we have 8 other patients who are being treated in the emergency department who are less serious. And we have about 40 patients who've been brought over by bus who are kind of like the walking wounded, right? And we are triaging those patients and treating them. Actually, we set up our cafeteria to be able to treat those patients. We anticipate the majority of those patients are going to be discharged. So right now we're dealing with about 11 patients in the emergency department, and we've got all hands on board and able to take care of those patients. I have with me here Dr. Ken Garay, who is our Chief Medical Officer, who can kind of give you a sense of what's going on in the emergency department. Dr. Garay?
Thank you. As Joe said, as soon as the call came in for the emergency for the trauma, all hands on deck. We've got 24/7 in-house trauma surgeons, and they were here. We brought additional trauma surgeons in as well. Being a trauma center, we have neurosurgeons, oral maxillofacial surgeons, orthopedic surgeons, all here on board in the house looking at our patients. As Mr. Scott said, there are 3 serious patients with orthopedic injuries, some internal injuries, and some deep lacerations. They are being treated by our trauma surgeons as we speak. In addition, there are a handful of other patients who are currently being evaluated for their injuries in the emergency room. Approximately 40 patients are being treated as well for walk-in types of injuries, and they are being evaluated as well. So that's where we stand right now. But all hands are on deck with all our physicians, all our surgeons, our specialty surgeons, our specialty physicians, as well as our critical care nurses. And we are plan well, and we actually are very much in gear to handle this type of emergency.
So is it 40 plus 11? Or those?
It's 40 in walk-in and 9 to 11 in the emergency room, yes.
Can you describe the injuries?
More serious?
I'd rather not describe until I have a better idea of what's going on, but they are under constant care and supervision by our trauma surgeons and our critical care nurses.
So you think they came for the terminal area? The reason why I'm asking that is because I know you set up a triage center there as well.
We have a triage center there. I don't know whether they came from the train or from the terminal themselves. My understanding is that most came from the train.
When do you expect the first discharges? Are we talking soon or later tonight?
As far as the walking people that are being evaluated now, hopefully in the next hour to 2 hours, but I will know better when I go back inside and speak.
Are you calling them critical or serious?
Some of them are critical and some of them are serious.
How many would you say are life-threatening?
None of them at this point are life-threatening. They're critical and stable and being carefully monitored and treated by our surgeons.
Are you expecting more patients from that scene? Are you standing by for that as well?
I think we have received the last of our patients.
Can you explain the difference between a level 1 and a level 2 trauma center?
Well, we handle all types of traumas here, and there are vagaries as far as what types of research of certain types of transport, but we are a level 2 trauma center. Unfortunately, we were here at the trauma center for 9/11. We were at the trauma center for the plane that went in the Hudson, so we handle all major traumas.
So
And
there
those
would be no
patients,
reason
the
to send them
walking
to
wounded,
Newark.
There was no reason to send them to Newark.
the walking wounded that we all saw them came in. How were they transported here? How did they get here?
By bus, by an NJ Transit bus.
Do any of the injuries have metal or some sort?
They're being evaluated. I can't answer that right now.
So we know some of them will be transferred to these rooms, the ones that are in the cafeteria,
They're being evaluated right now.
So they not necessarily are going to be in today.
I have no answer to that. When I have an answer, I'll be glad to let you know.
So you said 3 in serious condition, 8 in less serious condition?
Correct.
Okay. Does that mean, and none of them life-threatening?
None of them at this point are life-threatening.
How many hospital staff members are there at the scene working now?
The entire staff is on complete alert. We have 3 trauma surgeons on board. We've got orthopedic surgeons, neurosurgeons, vascular surgeons, oral maxillofacial trauma surgeons, all in-house. We are backed and we have a depth in those staffing, so we have several in each of those categories.
But at the scene, you guys sent people to the scene.
At the scene, we sent our EMS team, and they are very good in evaluating patients. and they transport the critical care patients immediately.
Did you say those serious injuries were orthopedic and internal injuries?
So, orthopedic and some internal injuries.
All 11 of the serious?
No, the three.
And in terms of the units that you sent there, do you have numbers? How many ambulances? How many personnel?
Let me. So one of the things about Jersey City Medical Center that's unique to our hospital, there are several hospitals in the state that are like that. We're also the emergency medical services provider. So we provide ambulance service, both advanced and basic life support. So the coordination from the hospital and the trauma center is seamless. When they're on site, our hospital is notified, and we actually drill for these types of events in the event that they do happen. So we're very, very fortunate that we're also the EMS provider, and we have a high level of coordination. I also want to thank all the first responders and the police department and everybody else who cooperated with us in making sure these patients got here as quickly as possible so that we could treat them. You know, for trauma, it's all about the golden hour, right? Getting them to your trauma center within the first hour, and that's what saves lives. And through that coordinated effort of the police, the fire, our EMS service, and all of the other first responders in the area, we're very fortunate these patients got here quickly, and we're able to treat them, and we expect good outcomes for each of those patients. Yes, we have a hotline for family members. If they would like to call in, it's 201-915-2691. It is staffed by our EMS department. You can find out information if people are concerned about their family members who might be here, and they can call that number. We do ask that we limit it to people who are concerned about family members who may be here. Certainly don't want to overwhelm that line with calls from other people, but if family members are looking for information or are concerned about their loved ones being here, we ask that they call that number, 201-915-2691.
Sir, the 40 that walked in, or that's in addition to the 3 in serious condition and the 8 in less serious condition, so is that a total of 51 patients?
That's correct. That's the count that we believe we have right now.
When did the first patients arrive? Do you have an approximate time?
Around 9:15 in the morning.
Can you talk about that coordination to get them here quickly?
Sure. So we are the local ambulance provider. So when you look at the ambulance, it says Jersey City Medical Center. They are actually employees of the medical center. We also are the 911 call center here, and so we coordinate both basic and advanced life support. So we're responsible for responding, but also there's other first responders, right? There's the fire department. Certainly the police are there responding and helping out on the scene. But that coordinated effort really makes a big difference.
And when you're deciding back at the scene where the patients are?
Well, we're the trauma center, right? So the majority of patients who are trauma victims, and there's specific criteria for that, would actually come here because we're prepared. We have 24-hour in-house trauma surgeons who are here available to take care of those patients with those traumatic injuries.
Do you know how many other hospitals are putting up a walk-in?
I don't know that at this point.
Can you differentiate between the 3 and the 8? What kinds of things separate them?
So the 3 are a little more critical, might be going to the operating room, they might be going to the intensive care unit. The others, we're looking to see whether or not they're going to be admitted. So it's really...
So you would say those serious conditions are in critical condition or no?
I can't say critical because I don't know their status, quite frankly. And so once we do know their status, we will absolutely let you know. We're evaluating them now, so as soon as we know that, we'll be the first ones to let you know.
Do you know anything about the 3 confirmed deaths?
I don't.
Are you referring to the 8 when you say that they may be admitted?
Yes. So in the emergency department, in the trauma center, there are 3 patients that we know are more serious. They're actually being treated now. I think one's in the operating room. I think one's in the intensive care unit. I'm not sure where the 3rd patient is at this point. The other 8 are being evaluated to see whether or not they need to be admitted and what level of care they are. The patients 40 patients who are in the cafeteria right now being triaged, we anticipate most of them will be treated and released. We have freed up beds in the hospital. We've discharged patients to our partners in the area, like our nursing homes, so that we've got additional beds available for patients in the hospital. And so we anticipate that there's plenty of space for them in the event that they do need to be admitted.
Some patients have to go to the nursing home?
Some patients were discharged from the hospital to free up space for these patients in the event that they were here.
What's happening in the cafeteria?
So they're triaging the patients, right? They're looking at what types of injuries they are. They got on a bus and they walked in. So they're not serious, right? They are minor injuries. We want to make sure we're treating them. If they have a head injury, for example, they might need a CT scan. We'll make sure that they get that before they leave. But most of them look like they're minor injuries, and they'll probably be treated and released.
What kinds of injuries are you seeing?
Yeah, lacerations. I think somebody got hit on the head and they have a
Lumps
ice
and-
pack.
lumps and
lumps and
bumps.
bumps, those kinds of
Now,
things.
you said you've drilled for this before. Have you ever had to use the cafeteria and activate this type of
So if you remember, Sully went down in the Hudson, right? Remember that? Okay, so when Sully went down in the Hudson, we had the same drill, right? Fortunately, at that time, you all know, we gave more chicken soup than we did medical care, but you know what? It's a good drill, and it's a good way for us to train for this.
How often do you drill for this? and what's that
We
like?
probably do it at least every quarter. You know, there's a coordinated effort throughout what we do here, and of course with all the other related agencies. So, okay, we'll be back again, folks. Thank you all for being here. You're
12:30 work for you guys?
Yes.
Sure.
yeah. So at 12:30 we'll be back. Thank you all.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Okay. What, that 1:30?
12:30. Excuse me.
I gotcha.
Give me a level.
Hi, everyone. I'm Bianca Godriga, and this is Yahoo News Now. We are following the breaking news out of a Hoboken, New Jersey train site. Hospital officials are reporting 3 trauma patients in serious condition. At least 11 others are in the emergency room, and dozens are also being treated as walking wounded. All of this after a New Jersey transit train crashed into a platform at Hoboken Station, one of the busiest transit hubs in the Northeast. This happened during rush hour around 8:45 a.m. Eastern. There are also reports of fatalities and at least 100 injured, some serious, as officials try to figure out the cause of this crash. Caitlin McCabe's train arrived at Hoboken Station around 10 minutes after the crash happened. Caitlin is joining us on the phone. Caitlin, are you there?
I am here. Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us. First of all, you were not injured, correct? You were not on this train. You arrived after the crash.
Correct. I was not injured.
Describe the scene. What did you see immediately?
Interestingly, I feel that I arrived so close to the incident that a lot of people were still I don't want to say in shock and confused, but didn't realize what had actually occurred. When I walked off I took a few pictures. So when I walked off the train, I noticed that there were floods of waters within the tracks.
Water?
Water, yes. So at first I thought maybe it was due to weather, but the further I walked into the station, I could see that there were beams and wires and things from the roof actually hanging down because the roof had collapsed. So I was in the crowd taking photos, and then I realized that it was actually the train that was in the shot, not just a caved-in roof, that the train had actually crashed into the station.
We're actually looking at a photo that you took. Can you talk about then describe the scene as you saw it right there? We see other commuters taking photos, trying to figure out what in fact happened. Did you see any passengers coming off of this train?
I didn't see from inside the station any passengers, but his police were very good at leading us out of the building. But once I reached the outside of the building, I was able to witness the triage area. So I did see several people getting treated by the ambulance. And
describe the wounds that you saw. We heard from hospital officials that a lot of these injuries were orthopedic. There are internal injuries, obviously facial lacerations. What did you witness?
So the more information that I've heard, the more that I think that the people that I saw being treated were ones that were just on the outskirts or that were able to get out of the train by themselves. I think that a main issue is that a lot of people that were seriously injured are still inside of the train. So most of the injuries that I saw were bloody cuts from maybe flying debris or some bone injuries from being crushed in the crash.
And was there a lot of structural damage to the train station itself?
Oh, completely. I go to the station every day, and I would say that about half the station was completely demolished by the crash, and the entire roof had been caving in, so the entire station has to be closed.
And we should describe to our viewers at home that this particular station is not a throughway, meaning that trains have to stop or otherwise end up crashing like this train did today. You take this route every single day. You live just outside of Hoboken. This is part of your daily commute. On average, 60,000 some people go through this terminal every day. Talk about how busy it was at 8:45 this morning.
Correct, yes. So I take the same exact train every day, and the train itself and the station itself is crowded every single time I'm in there. Yes, this is a final destination, which means that you'd think that the train is supposed to be going very slowly as it enters the tunnel because there are several other trains also entering. There are several passengers walking through the station. So it would have been absolutely packed, and it was absolutely packed at the time. So I can only imagine that the commuter train coming in was packed, and when it entered the actual station and crashed into the station, several people were walking through it.
Yeah, and what we've heard from people who are actually on the train was that this train was not decelerating. It was actually still going at a very fast speed. And you talk about the snail's pace that the train typically is as it approaches the station. At this point, a lot of people start getting up out of their seats, correct, as they start gathering their belongings, waiting for the doors to open. And we can only assume that that's where a lot of these injuries took place, when a lot of these passengers stood up and were waiting to leave.
Exactly, correct. And so many people have either their laptops out and around, so many people, no one's wearing seatbelts or anything, so everyone is moving, everything is loose. So if in a situation like that, it would be extremely dangerous to get hurt in ways that you wouldn't have even expected.
And obviously, first responders are there to take care of the wounded and the injured and transport them to the hospital. The second, of course, would be for investigators to try to speak with this engineer if the engineer is okay and is able to be part of this investigation and spoken to right now. Did you get a sense of workers there talking to any employees, talking to any potential engineers?
I didn't see it at that point. I think that it was too soon for me to see any actual workers from NJ Transit arriving to see what had happened and investigating further. I think at that point the main concern was getting people out of the station and getting people out of the train. But from what I've seen up close, it looks the entire front car of the train was completely demolished. It was completely crushed.
And
so
obviously, the Northeast region has experienced crashes like these, fatal crashes, in recent months and years. But this coming on the heels of the terror attack in New York City and New Jersey, the suspect being from New Jersey. Can you talk about some of the fears that people had there, you yourself, when you first saw the carnage?
It was definitely surprising because, when most people think of Hoboken, they don't think of it being a site that is actually New York City or that would have this type of action going on. But, certainly once you process it further, I didn't know what had actually happened until I was several blocks away from the station and police officers were informing us what happened. All I could see was what I witnessed myself of the crash and people outside hurt and crying and calling people. So I was very young when 9/11 occurred, but as from New Jersey, I could see smoke coming from the towers. So it was sort of like reliving it yet again, except being so much closer this time.
Yeah, and we want to, of course, remind our viewers that we don't want to speculate as to what happened right now. This could have been an engineering problem for all that we know, so investigators are working on figuring that part of the puzzle out. But was it orderly when you were evacuating? Was there chaos? Was it passengers helping passengers, or were there police and local officials guiding you out?
There were police and local officials guiding out. The mob was definitely being calm at the time that I was there. We were told to stop taking photos and to immediately leave. but it was said in a very urgent but calm manner. There were no barking orders. Everyone from several feet, there were several different police officers leading us through the back of the train station rather than through the main entrance. So it was very well handled, very organized.
Well, that is reassuring to hear, especially since this happened just 10 minutes after you arrived. Can you talk about the reports that this train was running late, a few minutes behind at least? That's a normal part of the daily commute, though, right? These trains running a few minutes behind?
Yeah, I mean, I've been on trains that have arrived maybe 5 minutes after it was supposed to, just depending upon if there's traffic before or if people sometimes take longer to get on trains, etc. I don't know how long the train would have been late, but it does seem a bit suspicious if it was more than just a few minutes.
Yeah, we know that this train had originally departed from Spring Valley, New York at 7:23 a.m. Spring Valley is approximately 30 miles from Hoboken. Hoboken, of course, just across the Hudson River from Manhattan. It's a major commute for those traveling to New York and work. How is this going to affect your travel tomorrow, as obviously this is going to cause a lot of congestion as investigators still try to piece together what happened?
So I have to take the train in order to get to work. And I work at a small company right next to the train station, actually. 3 of us take the train in to get to work. 1 of us takes the path, and the path station connected to Hoboken is currently closed, too, because of the crash. So not just me, but tons of people are going to have issues getting to Hoboken or just getting to Hoboken to get into the city. Yeah, I don't know how long it'll take for repairs, but right now I don't even know how I'm getting home.
Yeah, we do know that local ferries and buses are stepping in as well, but I'm hate to tell you, you can probably expect a lot of traffic as you probably already factored in. But the most important thing, Caitlin, is that you were okay. You were not on that train, but we appreciate the color that you've added and the detail that you brought us for our viewers just tuning in right now. Thanks so much for calling in.
Thank you. Have a good day.
You too. And, of course, we'll continue to monitor the developing news out of Hoboken and bring you the latest on our live blog right here on Yahoo. I'm Bianca Godriga. Thanks so much for watching.